Hello, I'm Monisha Bharadwaj. I was born in Mumbai, and that's where I spent the first 20 years of my life. I was born in a family of academics and art lovers. No one in my family was a dancer, but great encouragement towards the arts. So I grew up in a house that had music, we went for dance performances, and I think quite early on, my parents found me dancing in front of the mirror and took me at the age of 4, very happy to say, to the best teacher that there was in Mumbai. I went to study with Guru Shri Kalyan Sundaram Pillai of Rajarajeshwari Bharatanatyam Kala Mandir. And to this day, I'm his student. I've been with him for so many years and trained only with him. I haven't moved from guru to guru. I then came to the UK for academic reasons. I did my journalism and also pursued other things. Then started to teach quite early on. I was teaching pure Bharatanatyam at that point, but also mixing it with other responsibilities and my studies. A few years later, I was asked to join the Shobna Jaisingh dance company, and I was with them for 3 years. Also a variety of other dance companies. So I was touring for about 8 months every year and setting up the performances for 2 months. So it was a life full of dance and fabulous, spending hours and hours of every day just dancing and being with people who loved dance or to even speak about it. And then life moved on. I had a family and I had to then stop the touring that much and went into teaching. Very strangely, I was teaching only Bharatanatyam to begin with. And I was commissioned to do a young people's production in Indian dance. And I assumed it was Bharatanatyam and was very happy, started to work on that project. When about a month before we were due to start, the lady who was in charge phoned me and said, we have 17 young people who are booked onto the course, and they've asked whether we can do Bollywood dance. And my heart sort of took a huge big jump and came into my mouth, because I thought, me, Bollywood? No, I'm a traditionalist. I do only Bharatanatyam. And for people who have probably grown up in India and trained in India, you know that the distinction between classical and Bollywood was a huge divide. I mean, if you're a classical dancer, there was no way that you would even admit to going and watching a Bollywood film. It was that sort of divide. Anyway, this lady asked me whether I would do a project in Bollywood. And I thought, okay, let me try. Firstly, to find the energy within myself to do it and to move, to actually cross over and say, right, this is where it opens up. And I choreographed a very, very classical based, because that was my knowledge, those were my roots. So I took what I knew of the classical and set a dance from Devdas, which to me was not going all the way really, but trying out a new music style using the same dance. And it worked. The students loved it. The performance went very well. And me personally, I felt a great sense of release from being very, very finite in the classical, being rigid and having followed a particular style for years and years and years and having to do exactly the same thing. Suddenly to find the freedom to do something completely different and be creative. That started the journey, and it went on from there till the point where lots of different classes happened. I now teach about 9 or 10 hours a week of regular classes, and also do things like workshops in schools and private classes, setting up projects, all of that in both Bharatanatyam and Bollywood or Indian film dance. All of my film dance work is based on the classical, because that's where I'm most comfortable. I know the classical medium, it's what my main training has been in, and I think what people like me are able to do then is we can use the classical moves or the classical storytelling techniques within Bollywood, because Bollywood is also about storytelling. In every film, the music, the song, is a medium to take the story forward. There are very few songs that stand alone. They will always be telling a story. And when you have classical training, it is easy to use that storytelling technique and apply it to Bollywood, so that you get a bit of both and you are able to tell a story, but in a slightly different musical way.
That's incredible. You're like a dream interviewee, basically. You were just talking about, getting the story forward. Could you just give us a little bit more details about, say, through steps and sequences? Maybe just do something for us, and as you know, how gesturally a story is brought forward.
Yes. Okay.
Or and and then talk about it, about costume, through music, through performances, artists, audience expectations. What an audience kind of expects when they come to see a performance. From you basically. Or your students who are doing Bollywood, because they're probably expecting something Bharatanatyam or classical based, but
Yes.
that is enriching Bollywood in a way.
Okay. Right. The way that I would use hand gestures from the Bharatanatyam, where we know that every hand gesture has a specific meaning or can have different meanings according to the context. For example, when I said the Devdas song, which was about this girl holding a lamp in a garden, again I was using very classical hand gestures. For example, using the lamp or the protection of the lamp, or wind and rain, or things such as the Alapadma, using all of those movements that made the story come alive, could tell the viewer that the story is set in a place which is windy, in a garden. There's a lamp. She's waiting for someone to come back from far away. All of that was used in a very, very classical way. Now, when we have performances, and we have regular performances, I have showcases twice a year with all my students, and everyone who comes to these performances comes with the expectation that the performance will be definitely based on classical moves. Everyone who comes to watch our shows says that the moves are different to, say, what you would see when you go to watch a performance. Everyone who comes to watch the performance says they find a difference from those performances that are not based on the classical. I suppose our moves are far more elegant, graceful, or I like to think of classical dance as having tera, which is a holding of a move. You don't just jump from one to the next. I have watched Bollywood dancers who come from a pure film tradition who seem to overlook this fact, and we tend to have it because it is so much a part of the classical form that when you get into a shape, you hold it and then move on to the next. Or you will finish a move into a very definite end to give the final look of that shape. So I think when people come to our performances, that is what they can see, that there is much more of the holding of the moves or the influence of classical dance even into the Bollywood. And all my students expect that of me as well. I mean, I don't have anyone coming to me saying, we just want hip shaking or shoulder shaking or things like that. It's all to do with, the first thing I ever teach anyone is the hands. To me, that is very important, the arm shapes and getting everything to look very, very elegant.